It's time to step behind the scenes and take a closer look at the Owen Sound attack. This is Bear Tracker Weekly. Here's your host, JC Coots.
Well, hello and welcome to episode 11, season 2 of the Bear Tracker Weekly podcast. It was we'll say an up and down week for the Owen Sound attack. They had 2 games against the top team in the Western Conference, the Windsor Spitfires. Played them both well, but unfortunately for the attack, came up short in both, including the game at home at the Bayshore on Saturday night. Although a late rally almost tied the game and sent it to overtime, the attack were that close on Saturday night. Sunday, a little bit of a better effort against the Kingston Frontenacs. In fact, it was the third period where the attack really blew the door open and ended up with a 7-3 victory over the Fronts. It was much closer, though, through much of the game, but a big win for Matthew Koprowski, who returned to the attack net for the first time in 5 weeks and got the win. A 28 save effort, I believe it was, at the end of that game for Matthew Koprowski, who was mobbed by his teammates in celebration. And you could really get the sense that everybody, especially Matthew, was a little relieved that that first win of the season finally happened. And here's hoping it's all smooth sailing now for Matthew Koprowski, who is going to get very busy in the next few weeks after Carter George departs to join Team Canada at the World Juniors. So Matthew looking much better on Sunday afternoon, as did the attack for the most part. A lot of secondary scoring in that game against Kingston. This week we've got a busy episode for you, and joining us will be Noah Roberts. He's going to be here. The attack defenseman will be on the podcast for the first time ever. Easton Mikus will be here as well. And attack head coach Scott Wray will get his thoughts on the weekend matchups and what he saw. Plus, we've got the Media Room Roundtable, of course. All 5 of us were together on Sunday afternoon at the Bayshore. And Adrien Mousseau and Moose on the Loose back for another episode. We'll chat with Adrien about the most recent top prospects game that took place between the CHL All-Stars and the National Development Team for USA. That series, of course, being taken by the Americans. So lots on the way for this podcast. Strap in. Here we go. Episode 11 starts now. Up first this week is Thunder Bay's own Easton Mikus. In fact, he would probably be the most famous hockey player from Thunder Bay on the Owen Sound attack if it were not for Carter George. I got a chance to catch up with Easton about his thoughts on how the season has been going so far and about his place with the team. Here's my conversation with Easton Mikus on Sunday afternoon at the Bayshore. Easton, first thing I want to ask you, last week you had some friends in the building. Some boys were down from Thunder Bay to watch you play. What was it like to have that bit of home here cheering you on at the Bayshore?
Yeah, it was great. I had no clue they were coming, so it was a great surprise. And it's funny to see them, having a great time up in the stands. And when I looked up there, they looked like they're enjoying themselves, which is awesome. And no, it's a little refresh for sure to see those boys again and have a good time with them. So yeah, it was a great weekend for me.
You've got brothers from back home, and of course the brothers you have here at the Bayshore in the dressing room. It was a pretty cool display, I think, at the end of the game to see everybody rally around Matthew Koprowski getting that first win. What were your thoughts on the day on the game today with a big 7-3 win over the Frontenacs?
Yeah, it was awesome. We came off of a loss last night, unfortunately, but the boys kept their heads high, and we were all riding behind Matthew, wishing him the best, and he played great. Couldn't have played any better, and everyone had the same goal and end the weekend on a win, and it feels a lot better to do that. So it was a good night. You've
seen a few different teammates, line mates on your line this season. I think the coaching staff really likes you because you're an energy guy, and you can also be slotted in pretty much anywhere and be successful. What's it been like tonight? I think it was Jackman and Max DeLille that you were paired with. What's the energy level from that line like?
Yeah, that's usually been our line recently, and we've been clicking well. I find that we're in the O-zone quite often, and just trying to swing the momentum for the first line to come out after us, and just do our job, try and stay plus or even throughout the night, and yeah, just be a good vibe in the room. Get the boys going, make sure they're ready to go, and yeah, just do our part.
How would you describe yourself as part of that line? I think you're kind of the sandpaper kind of guy there. Like, you play with a bit of a jagged edge, but at the same time, you could put a puck in the net if you need to.
Yeah, I try and be a complete player as much as I can. I mean, I'll try and lay that big hit if it comes, but that's not always there. And if I'm not feeling that night, I'll try and focus on playing a better puck game and maybe scoring or getting an assist. But that'll come as if I just do everything right and keep my job going. So it's I just try and do my job.
One thing that I think we're trying to figure out, we're trying to pinpoint about the Attack this season is exactly what the identity of the team is. Last year it was a team that was kind of that underdog every game, and you were here last year. You remember that. It was the big push was to make the playoffs. This year it seems like the big push is for a lot more than that. And in fact, I think we heard Noah Nelson during the intermission tonight say, we're here to win a championship. So what's the mindset of the team? And do you know who you are? Is it just like the injuries have kind of been the only thing that's really holding this team back from getting further ahead?
Yeah, I think the boys all believe in each other and that we have the right team in the room. I just think we need to come together a little bit more and really start believing in it. I know that it can be possible. We just got to start, riding out together. And I think we have the team, and if we just everyone does their job, stays structured, believes in our line and their teammates, I think like anything's possible. I think the ceiling's really high for our team this year.
Certainly a fun team to watch, and there certainly is a lot of scoring depth on the team. We saw that tonight. Erie coming up next, Friday and Saturday here at the Bayshore. How do you prepare against a team like Erie, who doesn't have a great record, but they have had success at the Bayshore when they've come to visit before?
Yeah, we know to not underestimate any team. Every game in this league is going to be a good game no matter who you're playing, and we're just going to go out there and try and stay in straight lines and do our jobs and stay structured and hopefully come out with the win.
All right, Easton, well, best of luck to you and the boys this coming week.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, Noah Roberts was an acquisition during the offseason, and he brings a shutdown attitude defensively to the Owen Sound Attack blue line. Plus, he's a pretty tough customer in the physical department. No wonder he got it from Dad, of course, former NHLer Gary Roberts. We talked a little bit about life growing up as the son of an NHL player, the advice that he got from Dad, and how Noah Roberts is adjusting his own game in the OHL. Here's my conversation with Noah Roberts after the Attack's win over Kingston. Noah, one of the things we do whenever someone's on the podcast for the first time, I always ask the same question. Where did you grow up, and what first made you fall in love with hockey?
Yeah, so I kind of moved around as a kid. My dad was playing in the States, so I was born in Florida, moved to Pittsburgh, and then eventually Tampa, and then we settled down in Uxbridge, Ontario, and that's where I grew up most of my hockey career in life, and it was awesome there.
Is it tough moving around at a young age that's moving to a new school, making new friends, and you're playing hockey along the way, so that means new teammates. Was that tough, or did that kind of actually maybe help a little bit in having that different exposure?
Well, I was so young in those times when I was moving around, so honestly I don't remember much. I'd say almost all of my minor hockey was through Uxbridge, Ontario, and I kind of got to stay there and get pretty settled in, and then I went to St. Andrews in grade 5, and I was there for the rest of my schooling, so it was really, really good.
Pretty good weekend for the boys here. Obviously, a loss against Windsor, a couple losses against Windsor this week, but hard-fought efforts against the top team in the West. What do you kind of take away from that series? I'm sure you probably use it as a bit of a measuring stick to see where the team is at and how they skate with a top team in the conference.
Yeah, I mean, they're a tough team to play, obviously, but wish we would have got maybe one of those wins last week. But, I mean, it is what it is, and we just kind of got to move on and know that we might get them in playoffs. So we're excited about that.
Big win today over the Kingston Frontenacs, and a lot of little things to focus on today. Obviously, secondary scoring was big, seeing some guys that haven't scored often getting some goals like Noah Nelson and Braden Rogers, and then also seeing Matthew Koprowski get his first win of the season. You could kind of see on the ice how close the team is and how much they really cared about Matt getting his first win. Well, what did you see from the game today?
I thought it was great. I thought the first period was pretty tight, and then I thought throughout the second we started to pick it up a little more, got more shots on net, and then we sealed the deal in the third, and it was really good. I was really happy for Corpo and Raj too. Raj did a great game as well, so it was awesome.
You mentioned earlier your dad obviously was a big influence for you playing hockey, and of course that's Gary Roberts. I grew up a diehard Ottawa Senators fan, so unfortunately I saw the other side of Gary Roberts. But the one thing I always appreciated was, God, this guy's got a great work ethic, and man, you don't want to go into the corners with him. What did he kind of pass along to you growing up?
I think he's kind of instilled that into me and my brother. I mean, just work hard as long as you can and as hard as you can every game. I mean, maybe puck's not going your way, but as long as you work hard, I mean, that's kind of when we were kids, like that's what he wanted out of us every game, and he was sure to tell us if we didn't do that. So
I think he had probably one of the best conditioning stints. Like he really worked hard off the ice. Was he running you through a lot of off ice drills growing up too?
Oh yeah, I was in the gym from a pretty young age, I'd say, but it was awesome. Like he's done so much for my hockey career, and I probably can never repay him. So yeah, he's been amazing.
I'd say the one part of his game that probably is the same for your game, he was tough in the corners. You're tough in front of the net when you're in a battle with guys trying to defend your goaltender. What can you describe about your game and the way that you play it?
Yeah, well, I'd say I'm just trying to be as physical and as defensive as possible, and then that leads to chances in the O zone for me, like getting a couple here and there. Like I know I'm not an offensive defenseman, and I feel like that's like a big thing on our team, like everybody knowing their roles and playing to that, because when we do that, we play much better.
Got Erie coming up here this week, Friday and Saturday against the Otters. They're having a bit of a tough year. How do you prepare for facing an opponent that, I mean, you've faced some pretty stiff competition these last few weeks. How do you prepare for an opponent that's not firing on all cylinders?
I mean, I think we should just take it the same way. It's like we're playing Windsor. I mean, if we go into that mindset every game, and I mean, to be honest, if we go look back at all our games against Windsor, I think those are where we had our best games. Even when we did lose the past two, they were close games and we played well. So I feel like if we just look at that, like they're the top team in the conference and not try to play to their level, I think we have a good game.
All right, Noah, well, it's been fun to watch you here in Owen Sound this season, and I know you got family waiting for dinner, so I'm going to let you go, but thanks so much for taking the time, and best of luck to you and the boys next week.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, we saw some fire on the bench from head coach Scott Wray this weekend, as we always do. He's a pretty passionate guy, and I was curious to get Coach Wray's thoughts on the two games against Windsor and what he saw as a measuring stick for his team and where they're at against the top team in the Western Conference, plus his thoughts against Kingston and what he thought of Matthew Koprowski getting back to form. Here's my conversation with head coach Scott Wray after the win over Kingston on Sunday. Well, Coach, a great victory this afternoon, 7-3 over the Kingston Frontenacs. I guess, first of all, the biggest thing probably was Matthew Koprowski, seeing him get back in the net for the first time in a few weeks and seeing him get his first win of the season. That must have been big. It certainly looked like the team was really celebrating a bit extra hard with Matt after the game, which was really nice to see.
Yeah, I thought Corpo was really good in the first. He kept us in the game and made some big saves. He had a couple breakaways where he had to make those stops, and you need good goaltending early, and it turned out to be the X factor for us.
One of the aspects of the game comes with the power play with the man advantage. Unfortunately, the Attack give up a shorthander tonight, now tied for allowing the most shorthanded goals on the season. Is that just a byproduct of having a team that is just so offensively minded when they've got the man advantage that occasionally chances are going to happen going the other end, or was there maybe just a turnover that led to that tonight?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a byproduct of that. I think it's just attention to detail and understanding your routes and knowing who's on the ice when you have the puck in certain situations. And you can't get aloof, or you can't go limp. You just got to understand that, okay, we got to bear down. We have an extra guy, so there's got to be somebody open, and we got to perform a little better in those situations. But we did get the shorty for ourselves with Crawford, so it was nice to sort of cancel that out.
Speaking of Jake Crawford, a couple of goals for him here tonight. Just came back on Wednesday from injury. I think he came back a little bit early, so obviously it takes you, as a player coming back, a little bit of time to get your timing back in and get in sync with your line mates, but starting to look like he's right back to where he was when he left with the injury. What's it like to have him back and have that energy that he brings back into the lineup?
Well, that's what you miss. You miss those guys that are hurt right now that have the energy, and you could see how infectious that is with the lineup. And he's like a jackrabbit out there. And I think last night, like you said, he just got back on Wednesday, and then last night he was trying to do a little too much and trying to try to make little plays in tighter areas than he's used to. And then today I thought he got back to finding more ice and curling up with a lot more speed. And when you have him in the lineup, it's somebody else to worry about.
A lot of secondary scoring tonight, guys that might not factor in on the score sheet often. Some were absent, like Pierce Bowie, Tristan DeLille, Nick Sikora tonight, but all of a sudden you see Jake Crawford step in, Braden Rogers steps up, Noah Nelson gets one. So it really, I think, shows that there's some significant scoring depth in this team.
Yeah, and that's what you need to get further in the year. You need your depth to score, and I think they did a great job, and I thought that goal by Noah Nelson was such a timely goal for us. They obviously scored to tie it up, and then he made it 4-3, and there's no looking back.
I guess the good news is you don't have to face Windsor again during the regular season, but obviously with 2 games this week, unfortunately 2 losses is the bad news, but I'm sure you use those games against a top team in the West as a bit of a measuring stick to kind of see where you're at. Just wondering what some of the positives were that you took away from that 2-gamer against Windsor this week, and maybe what some of the negatives, some of the things to work on that you took away from that series. Well,
really, they were 2 really good games. I wasn't disappointed with anything last night. I thought we did really well. I thought we played well. It was a hard-fought game. It could have went either way. Same in Windsor. Windsor, we sort of shot ourselves in the foot on 2 special team plays. One was a shorthanded goal, and then the other one was just a tough route to get a guy on 4-on-4. And like it is a game of mistakes. When if you make 2 and you lose 2-1 3-1 with an open net, you got to take the positives, like you said, and we're right there with them, and they have some high-end draft picks and high-end players, and we're right there.
Just going to ask you about the injury award and any updates on the 2 of the guys that have been out for a while now, Jake Terrian or Mason Ray.
Yeah, Mason's still on schedule to come back probably after Christmas. Jacob Terrian's still a day-to-day, week-to-week situation. So, yeah, we're probably going to be without them until at least after the Christmas break.
Couple of games coming up at the Bay Shore next week against the Erie Otters, who've had a bit of a tough season, 9-16. So obviously, I'm sure you look at that and maybe you might think easy wins, but certainly nothing is easy in this league.
No, nothing. There's no opponent that's easy or you can't take advantage of in this league. So we got to have these guys ready and understand that they can't underestimate their opponent and be ready to go.
All right, Coach. Well, congrats on the victory today and best of luck next week with the boys.
All right, thank you.
Well, our good friend Adrien Mousseau joined us once again for his bi-weekly segment, Moose on the Loose. Adrien wanted to talk about the most recent top prospects game between Team CHL, the Canadian Hockey League team, and the U.S. National Development Team. Here's Adrien's thoughts and Moose on the Loose. And welcome back to everyone's favorite bi-weekly segment on the podcast, Moose on the Loose, joined by Adrien Mousseau from a not winter wonderland, apparently not getting as much snow as the rest of us are up in the Owen Sound, Bruce Gray area today, Adrien.
No, I think Windsor's more like Florida to Gray Bruce right now. It's just a little windy. It is a little chilly. I think it's like 1-2 degrees, but the wind is very, very strong. But I'll take wind over potentials of 100 centimeters of snow.
Yeah, as we record this on Thursday afternoon, I'm not even sure if we're going to have both attack games this weekend. Maybe one, maybe not. We'll see what Mother Nature puts us through as we head into December, starting on Monday. But hey, we're used to these winters in Grey Bruce. We tough it out. Speaking of toughing it out, the top prospects game, 2 games, the series between the CHL prospects and the U.S. National Under-18 Development Team took place this week. We've talked about it a couple times now on Moose on the Loose, but just curious what you saw in this series, which was taken by the U.S. So now in the 2 years they've done this, both Canada and the U.S. each have a win that they can claim. But what did you think of this year's series?
I thought it was a lot better than last year. Last year, Canada's team was so dominant that the games weren't even really close. And the U.S. NTDP program wasn't a strong core last year. And not to say that this year's group will have very many first round talent players on it. However, they have a better nucleus, and the core is a lot stronger of a team. So they played 2 games, one in Calgary and one in Lethbridge. And I'll say with the first thing that caught my eye in game 1 was it being in an NHL building, the lack of fans that were at that event. And I think going forward, the CHL might have to revisit where they play these games, because it was a lot more electric when it was in Lethbridge last night. So in a big barn, you need to sell out. In my opinion, you need to sell out these games. London and Kitchener last year did a great job of that. So going forward, I think they need to stick to like CHL type buildings and not NHL type buildings. So that was the first thing that caught my eye in these 2 games. Now, game 1 went to the US NDTP and US National Development Program team, and with a score of 4-2. And the one big thing in that game for me was the goaltending performance that the Americans had. That Brady Nolan was the first star, the player of the game, with 42 saves on 44 shots. He played outstanding in that performance, and really some high quality saves coming down the stretch as the game got close. And then it was an empty netter that sealed the victory for the American squad. But it was really Brady Nolan that really kept them in the game. And then a few like surprise guys on USA really made their mark during this game. And the one was Mikey Burchild. He had an unbelievable first 2 periods, really drove play, and was rewarded with 1 assist in the game. But I really found that he was the best offensive player for the team as a whole. And then son of former NHLer Matt Cullen, Wyatt Cullen, who's had a tough year as late, just came back from a broken foot coming into this tournament. He scores a really clutch goal, a beautiful goal at that on the power play, a wrister that the goaltender Harrison Bottinger had no chance of stopping. Good screens in front. Yeah, so it was a really nice goal there by Wyatt Cullen. So those are the 2 guys really that stood out to me American wise in that game. And then Canada, I had mentioned Mathis Preston as being the player to watch, and he was all world in that game as well, with a goal and an assist. And his goal was a lethal wrister, top shelf, that cut the game to 3-2 at the time. So it gave Canada a little bit of spark with just under 7 minutes left to go in that game. But I think the biggest thing in these 2 games for Canada, and it was more prevalent in game 2, was the undisciplined play. They went on the penalty kill 6 times in game 2, and a lot of them was just lazy stick work, sticks and feet, not moving. You're getting out of position. And that really cost them. They thought that their skill could outdo it, and their size. They're a lot bigger team than the Team USA squad that came north of the border. But it wasn't. It was a big factor, their undisciplined play in both games. Now, when you go to game 2, after a tough loss, a 4-2 loss in game 1, well, it was a really tight game, kind of a back and forth affair. US was up 2-1 after one period, and then it was 3-3 after two. So going into the third period, you're looking for something, a spark from someone, for maybe one of the big guys. And who is it? But it's Xavier Villeneuve. So one of the defensemen that I said to look out for in this tournament, he really elevated his play when needed most, and really shined as the best Canadian defenseman. I thought Ryan Lynn would be that guy, but it was Xavier Villeneuve. And one of the other defensemen was Sioux Greyhounds, Chase Reed. That was kind of the first time that I got to see him play, as he was an American-born kid, now playing in the CHL for the Sioux. Dynamic player, very, very good defenseman. He'll be a top first-round draft pick for sure. But with Villeneuve, the way that he plays the game, and I know Craig Button mentioned it multiple times, the Lane Hudson effect. He plays a very similar game to Lane, and a Quebec-born kid that watches him night in, night out. But then what I really enjoyed after both games, so it was a 4-3 final. The series is technically tied. What do they go to? A super overtime. So they flood the ice. Fresh, clean slate. Everybody gets to come back out to fresh ice, 3-on-3 hockey, and then an unbelievable play along the boards. The guy was draped or laying down on the half wall, takes the puck, gets up, and that was Victor Plant, and he feeds one of his teammates who finished the job and won the mini tournament for the US program. So now it's one win for Canada, or the CHL, and one win for US. Very good hockey, but again, some of the key factors for me were undisciplined play for Canada. And you see that at international events. And this wasn't even an international event. This was one refereed by CHL officials. But it just seems like sometimes when they're playing for their country, quote unquote, they get a little overzealous, and some costly penalties cost them in the end.
You mentioned the fact that one of the lessons learned from this mini series is maybe stick to the smaller buildings. I was just trying to Google here if they've announced that they're doing it again next year, if that's already the plan, and who might the host be next year. I can't seem to find anything on it, but is this something that should move forward? Do you think they should stick with this format and just see where it goes? Because obviously it is beneficial with so many players being drafted out of the U.S. leagues to have that national development team represented. And, of course, we know how many players get drafted out of the CHL into the NHL. But is this a good thing moving forward, do you think?
Well, I think they're trying to tinker with everything, and after seeing 2 years of it, and one where it was the CHL was dominant, and this year where the U.S. team takes the cake, I do think it's something that they will move forward with. But and if that is the case, well, the OHL had it this year, the WHL had it, WHL this year, OHL last year. I would assume that next year goes to the Q. So maybe somewhere like Halifax or Moncton or Cape Breton, or if they do want to keep it in Quebec, there's a lot of good buildings that they can go to. I just would refrain from going maybe to Quebec City, and where the Ramparts play, and the Videotron Center, where it's it holds 19 or 20,000 people. I just think it's more of a smaller, intimate setting would be best for this type of tournament.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on this tournament and see if it does continue to live on. I'm sure that it will. And, I mean, if Quebec gets it next year, I mean, there's all kinds of rumors right now that the USHL might be joining the CHL and then having 4 leagues all working together. And then who knows where this goes from there. But definitely exciting times in the future of junior hockey, one way or another. One of the big stories in not just the OHL, but all of junior hockey this past week or so has been the OHL leveling a massive season-long remainder of the season suspension against Luke Draguska, who did his best Marty McSorley impression in a game, which has no place in a game. We haven't seen anything like that in 20 years for a reason. And it was a scary incident. The good news is the guy on the other end of it was okay, and we'll continue to play on. But Luke Draguska not only will not get to play for the rest of this year and the playoffs, he will have to take courses and will have to reapply to play in the OHL next year. It seems like this is a fitting punishment, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts, Adrien, especially from your background as an on-ice official, what you thought of how all of this played out.
Well, one, I thought it was an egregious act that is not a hockey play. And even if your reaction after getting hit like that to no injury, you were not injured on the play, and that's your reaction, yeah, there's something there that needs to be dealt with, and I'm glad he's going to have to get classes and probably anger management and whatever have you. But when this all came out and he was suspended indefinitely, there was just something in me that was saying, when you look at the past history of suspensions, none being bigger than 25 games for an on-ice incident, that I thought he would get 15 to 20 games, and then the OHL was like, yeah. But I think this is the one time that I can truly say that this suspension is merited. The length of the suspension, you nailed it on the head there, JC. It has no place in the game. Like, that is not a hockey play. Your stick is a weapon, but it's a weapon that's supposed to score goals, make passes, box people out in front of the net. It is not a weapon to be used violently. When I was appalled when I saw the video at first, and I sent multiple messages out saying the OHL got it right, and I was very, very pleased with the length of the suspension and that he has to apply to come back. So the OHL could say, no, this is a lifetime ban. If they want to, if they feel that he's disingenuous or hasn't been taking his courses, whatever the fact may be, it's a year suspension, but it could be a lifetime ban from the OHL. And that, to me, sets a standard that acts of violence like this will not be tolerated. It would have been a very, very, very bad look and a black eye on the OHL if they wouldn't have. I think that it sets a standard, and I very much hope that an act like this does not happen again.
The one difference between this situation and the Marty McSorley situation, which also was a remainder of the season suspension, there was also criminal charges attached to the Marty McSorley incident, because when something like that happens, it's outside of the game of hockey, and the law can get involved. The big difference, though, being that the player that was the victim in this case was not severely injured. I think if they had been hurt, we might be having a different conversation. But, and you know what, given the age of the players involved, I would say that, let the OHL handle it. I think that the punishment is probably good enough. We don't need to further involve laws, which might, hamper future development, future life, future careers of Luke Draguska. So is it case closed at this point, do you think? Is it good that it's just left where it is?
I don't know, because if this victim is having post-traumatic stress because of it or whatever, he could still it's an assault. It was an assault on ice assault. Is it case closed? Maybe, but if something more was to come to it and he goes and files assault charges, I could see this going to court and being a lengthy procedure. But I think what the OHL did by suspending him for the entire year and indefinitely kind of wipes the slate clean for them. It shows them that they took care of their business and they can't get involved into any acts, or maybe that was part of the length of the suspension was, okay, if you do suspend him for this long, I will not press charges on you, on the league, on the officials, whatever it may be. Even though the officials had textbook, they called the match penalty for that high sticking or slashing penalty, a match penalty for slashing. And I remember in my first ever reffing clinic that I attended in Windsor in 2007. I just know that because I was unpacking boxes the other day and I had my ref certificate. October 14th, 2007, Windsor, Ontario. They said a match penalty is something that makes your jaw drop and something that makes you say, "Holy sh!" You can fill in the rest there, and that's exactly what that was. That was a textbook match penalty, and higher powers made the decision. So I'm glad the Guelph player is okay, and I'm very happy that it was the suspension length fit the crime.
The one other big story that was almost overshadowed by this whole situation was the fact that they announced the host team for the Memorial Cup, and I'm curious to know if you were also surprised, as it seems the majority of the junior hockey world was surprised that Kitchener and that cathedral of hockey that is the Auditorium will not be hosting it. The Guelph Storm got it, part of what will become part of their bicentennial celebrations, celebrating 200 years in the city of Guelph. What did you think of that Memorial Cup announcement, and will you be going? Will you be buying tickets since it's right in our own backyard here?
I was shocked. I thought it was going to Kitchener for sure. I thought the odd, like the way that the OHL loves the Kitchener Rangers. But if you look at the program that the Guelph Storm have moving forward, is Zach Jovanovski in net. He'll be another year older with Jakob Wysick, the number 2 overall pick. That's just tearing up having a great rookie season, I should say. He's not really tearing it up per se, but he will in the future, that's for sure. I just think that they have everything in place, and now with the trade that they just moved Jet Luchenko out of town, that it is the right decision to go to Guelph. I'm glad, I'm happy that they got it. It's going to be funny seeing a Memorial Cup in a mall, but that's just a little friendly joke there for the Highway 6 rivalry. But will I be going? I'll try and get tickets. I always when it was in Windsor in 2017, I went to all the games. I was actually the mascot, so I got to go to all the games for free. And I really enjoyed the WHL versus QMJHL game. So that time it was the St. John Sea Dogs against the Seattle the Seattle Thunderbirds. And it was just cool to see Matt Barzell going against Thomas Chabot and those likes that I didn't get to see. You get to see all the big names in the OHL all the time, but when those big names come to town from other places, it's really cool to see. So, and usually there's a few more tickets available for those games. What I do also like is Guelph's not the biggest building in the world in the OHL. It's not the smallest either. It's a good sized building, but that building should be packed for mostly every game. And you got a lot of good junior hockey teams around there that fans will flock. So I think it's awesome for the city of Guelph and for the OHL as a whole, because I think they'll do a very good job in hosting.
You have me now Googling who the Windsor Spitfires mascot is, and I found a page where they have 3 of them. Holy Windsor. Yet one's not good enough, 2 aren't good enough. We have to go for the hat trick here.
They got the 3 in 2017. So when they hosted the Memorial Cup, they already had Bomber, which is the main guy, and then they came in with their 2 other. So Bomber's his mentor, Ace was the other guy that came in. He was a pilot, and then they had Spike, the K9, and I'll let you guess which one I was.
Were you Spike?
I was Spike, the K9.
Nice. You know what? Even though they have 3, that's way better than my first initial thought was, it's probably a plane named Spitty, which you can't, now that I think about that, would not be the most appropriate of names for the Spitfires, but hey, good for you. You've been a mascot. You've unlocked that level.
And you know what I'll say about that too is I was it was the first time that costume had ever been worn. So I didn't have anybody else's disgusting sweat. They got all my disgusting sweat. So I'm happy with that. Spike the K9, he was on the ice for the Memorial Cup victory for the Windsor Spitfires. And that was it was a pretty cool moment. I have to say, I was invited. I had backstage passes to basically everything, all the events, and it was a good time. I was in university at the time as well. So yeah, we had some fun.
Possibly a part of Adrien's life that you didn't already know about. But I'm sure we'll find more, lots of interesting tidbits as the season rolls on. Adrien Mousseau, thanks so much for joining us again this week for Moose on the Loose.
My pleasure. And JC, I thank you for not rubbing in the Packers victory against the Lions.
Oh, did that happen? I didn't even notice. Once again, the Media Room Roundtable got together on Sunday afternoon at the Bayshore. We had to keep it a little tight this time around as everybody had to be somewhere else, which is, usually the case. We're all busy and we have different segments to go tape, and Matt's got to do his live pregame show on the radio. But we did get a couple of important questions in, talked about the goaltending scenario for the Owen Sound attack and also the thoughts against the Windsor Spitfires. Here's the Media Room Roundtable from Sunday at the Bayshore. All right, Media Room Roundtable is here. We're a little bit rushed today just because it's a little bit close to game time, and Matt and Greg have to go do their pregame show on CFOS. So
I have to go do Greg's pregame show.
Right. Yeah. Now it's because you're slowly taking over, man. Good for you. You were even on the radio broadcast yesterday in Windsor, so you're on the radio more than I am now.
He's just waiting to snatch that mic from you.
I was going to say, I'm going to be doing too well. I still don't get the earmuffs on this show. I got the...
You still just get the handheld.
Mic,
You're trying to push Manny Pave out of a job, Mark McKelvey out of a job.
I don't know how you guys do it. I'm on 3 different halls lost and just trying to keep these golden pipes going.
All right, guys, we've had 2 games against Windsor this week. Obviously, the Western Conference leader, a pretty good team to use as a measuring stick to see where you're at in terms of your own team play. And Owen Sound plays them well, comes up short in both games this week. Any positive lessons going forward that we saw this week, and any negative things that we saw in the 2-game series that maybe need a little bit of work?
Well, thanks, Mark. I guess I'll go first.
We didn't have you here last week, so I thought, hey,
you'll give me the first bite? Okay, well, the most recent 4 losses for the attack are to the Flint Firebirds in 2, and then Windsor twice. So you're losing to 2 of the best teams in the Western Conference, who collectively, 39 points right now for Flint. They're 2 games back, or 2 games in hand on Windsor right now to take the division and the number 1 spot in the West, and then obviously Windsor's number 1 in the West. So you look at those and obviously say, you'd love to get at least a point or at least a win against one of those 4 games, but you're playing against top competition, which what it felt like the beginning of the season was like for the attack team, as they played a bunch of teams that came into the season as projected great teams. Barrie, who's been slowly getting themselves better with all their guys coming back, and London obviously turning it around, and they've been really good recently. So I just kind of look at it from the positive perspective. JCW, you played against really good teams and played Windsor really close twice. And obviously Flint's games haven't gone well, but we've also talked about how maybe that's just the team they struggle against. That's just the one team where it just doesn't seem to click, and they're able to get the upper hand on the attack. But they've played Windsor close every game. They've beaten Windsor here at the Bayshore. Now obviously they're done with that team, so that's probably also a good thing, Mark McKelvey and Matt, that they don't have a chance now to play against that number 1 team in the West.
Greg?
Well, I was getting there. It's Greg's show anyway, so he'll go 2 minutes on it anyway. But as I continue, I think it's great that they be able to push Windsor as far as they did, and obviously, hopefully, a big win tonight against Kingston to be able to get 2 points on the weekend.
I'll say this: I think for the attack after that game, what was it, about 9 days ago in Guelph, the 10-7 shootout. Obviously, they wanted to get to that boring hockey, and I think defensively, there's been some mistakes, but for the most part, they've been tightening things up a little bit and playing some low-event games. Now, maybe this team seemed to excel in some high-event hockey, so maybe they get back to that here today, but I'm kind of with you there, Spencer. I don't think there's a whole lot to be disappointed in those 2 losses to Windsor, other than probably just a couple of breakdowns, right? Just some sloppy play in your own zone, allowing a goal right at the start of a period in that game on Wednesday night. It's just little things that breakdowns are going to happen, and it just looks at, are you going to get burned or not. And in this case, a couple times they did, and that ended up probably being the difference. But in a season series now that wrapped up against Windsor, they go 1-3. They've had their struggles against Flint. They've lost to Saginaw. They lost to Sarnia. Their record is now 2-8-1 against the West Division. So if you're the Attack, even if you could have just picked up a few more points in that, look where you could be in the Western Conference standings. But at the end of the day, you're still right in the mix. So I'm not going to be too disappointed by those results just yet, and hope that they can continue to grow.
Yeah, I'll just parrot what everyone's been saying. I was talking to David Bukowski after the game last night, and he said something interesting. In Oshawa, when they went to the finals and lost, their team was also struggling with identity. They started really slowly and then started to pick up some wins. And he said their coach then, Derek Laxdal, wanted the team to focus on its own game, so he stopped putting the lineup on the whiteboard in the team's locker room. He said it doesn't matter who we're playing against, we're going to play our game. If we play our game well, we're going to beat most teams across the ice from us. And David brought that up yesterday when we were talking about teams finding their identity, because the Attack are struggling with right now. They played an unsustainable game. That was the word Coach Scott Wray said early, scoring tons of goals, guys being on top 10s on the OHL in points, but it was loosey-goosey. It's not the type of game that you're going to win in the playoffs, and so they're trying to change that. They're trying to play it more tight defensively. You saw it against Ottawa where it worked. Now you have these games against Windsor where you're playing that way, but you're not getting the results. So are they going to just chip it away and have the trust that will eventually make them successful, or are they going to get away from it? I think that's the test they're going through right now. It's a long season, and we'll just have to watch to see it unfold.
I agree with you, Greg. I think identity is the key word for what the Attack are going through now, and you spelled it out pretty well, because the team, by the numbers, is a team that likes to shoot the puck, and they're at their best when they score goals, but they've been trying a new approach. We've heard it very publicly from the head coach, Scott Wray. He wants them to play a structured game and a net-out sort of game, and you mentioned it, that worked against the Ottawa 67s 8 days ago, but played some tight games against Windsor that didn't fall their way. And really, when I look at that game script against the Windsor Spitfires, that's how the Windsor Spitfires play hockey games. They don't give up a lot. They have really, really good goaltending. The Attack do as well, but that's how Windsor wants to win as well. And, I can't help but wonder if the Attack are better off playing a different style of game when they're playing that sort of opponent, because that's kind of, in my mind, playing into their hands a bit. But, it's a long season to go. I think that, how this team is best suited to play is still sort of being discovered, and we're not really sure yet. The reality is that they've been up and down for about a month and a half now, and just trying to hammer things down. And thankfully for them, hopefully, they get an Eastern Conference opponent today while we're recording, and the Attack have owned the Eastern Conference so far this season, haven't lost yet. So we'll see. But you got to play a tough game against tough opponents, and that's the reality of life in the Western Conference.
Today, we get to see a guy we haven't seen in about 4 or 5 weeks. Matthew Koprowski is back in the net to start. The last time was October 28th in Flint. Did not go well for Matthew. Only 4 games played this season. If today doesn't go well, and we're recording this obviously before the game, does that say anything? Does that change the way the Attack have to approach this three-headed monster they have in nets, or is it just another game and it doesn't really matter if he does well or not? Obviously, it's going to be Trent and Matt when Carter goes away in about 2 weeks.
You just mentioned it. So the reality is, in 12 days anyways, it's going to be a two-headed monster, or a two-headed tandem, however you want to describe it, in Trenton Bennett and Matthew Koprowski, because Carter George, he's going, right? So it's important, I think, that Matthew Koprowski gets into some game action, because he could be relied upon over a 4-week stretch through December and early January, and the team knows that. So I don't think it's a mistake that he's playing this day against the Kingston Frontenacs, when, really Carter just went back-to-back, so it could have been a start where Trenton Bennett was in, but that's not the case. So they know they're going to have to rely on both goaltenders when Carter's not here. And, is it an important game? I think for sure. I'm sure Matthew, on a personal level, is feeling some form of pressure, right? He's a third-year player in the OHL now, second full-time season, but third-year player in terms of his eligibility, and I'm sure he wants more opportunity than the opportunity he's been given, but ultimately everything is earned in this league, right? So when the performance, when he gets to the level that he knows he's capable of playing, I'm sure he'll be in that net more regularly, and he knows that.
We're almost a year removed from what was probably the shining moment in Matthew Koprowski's season last year, was his performance at the top prospects game for the Ontario Hockey League. Certainly kind of showed to the rest of the league his ability, and I don't think any of us had any questions coming into this year that Matthew Koprowski is not a regular OHL goaltender. So I'm sure for him, the confidence might be a little low right now, just not getting those opportunities. And I hope today he can really turn in a good effort, get that confidence up for himself, get that confidence up for the entire team. I think we all know, though, this team, whenever it's anybody but Carter George in the net, they don't play the same. And I do wonder if the goaltenders feel that a little bit as well. It's just a lot of pressure, I think, on everyone. And so they need to find a way to relax that because, like Matt said, it's going to have to be the scenario for a month where Carter's not going to be here. I'd like to sit here and say, hey, they're hockey players. They should just rise up to the moment, but they're humans too. So, hopefully on that mental side of the game, Matthew's got himself focused and ready to go today.
Well, they're also young players. Like they're not just like NHLers or even AHLers. They're 16 to 18 to 20-year-old kids still, really. So that also adds to the pressure argument. But I'll be the one to say glass half full. I have a lot of confidence that Matt Koprowski can turn in some good performances, and I think the big thing you guys have mentioned already that I think plays very good for him is that he knows he's going to get a good long run as a goalie when Carter goes to the World Juniors, or at least to camp, and then obviously to the World Juniors in Minnesota. So I think that gives you confidence of knowing I'm going to get my chances. I just need to be able to cash those in, and I have a lot of confidence that he can, and I have a lot of confidence that obviously Trenton Bennett can when his time eventually arises, as he'll be the second goalie when Carter does end up going and playing for Team Canada. So no, I think that Matt's going to be just what the attack need, and then I think that's where the decision comes in of which one do you keep of the three when you go Carter's the starter, who's the backup. I think that month of Trenton and Koprowski kind of fighting for that backup spot, that will be where that decision is made, and then obviously the trade deadline will be not too far after that.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for him to be in because the three-headed monster of goaltending happens in practice too, right? And Matthew hasn't gotten the same amount of reps as Carter and Trenton have lately, at least. It's been, and deservedly so. He hasn't played as well as the other two guys. And goaltending is a harsh position. The equipment costs a lot. You're by yourself back there, and look what's happening in Sudbury. You don't play very well, you're gone, and you bring some other guys in from different leagues. So it's a harsh reality. And I'm pulling for Koprowski because he deserves a bit better than what he's been getting here in Owen Sound right now. And he had a really good, like you mentioned, the top prospect game. Like he was on NHL teams' radars last season. The talent's there, and this is a showcase too, not just for Owen Sound, but maybe other teams in the league looking at adding a goalie this year or next year. And if the attack go that way, so yeah, it's an interesting situation, and he hasn't played well, but he's got an opportunity today to kind of get it going in the right direction.
It sounds like we're all rooting for Matt, and I think I can, before I wrap this up, we can all agree we're all rooting for Max Bleicha, too, who just got named to Team Germany at the World Juniors. So congrats to Max, who now plays in the BCHL.
And want to know something? I told a few of these guys last night. I happened to catch a little bit of a BCHL game featuring Attack alumni Declan Waddick and Gabe Smith. Declan Waddick was ejected from the game for a hit from behind on Gabe Smith. So, wow. Just amazing, isn't it? Funny sport. From Owen Sound, the scenic city, to Blackfalds, and wherever one of them is playing.
Well, congrats to all the former Attack players from last season. And guys, thank you so much for your time. I know everyone's got to run, so that will do it for this week's Roundtable.
Thanks, JC.
Well, there you go. A jam-packed episode comes to a close. Thank you so much to all of our guests this week. Easton Mikus, Noah Roberts, Head Coach Scott Wray, our good buddy Adrien Mousseau, and, of course, the Media Room Roundtable, Matt Hermes, Greg Cowan, Spencer Byers, and Mark McKelvey. Speaking of Mark McKelvey, by the way, just a programming note for fans of the podcast and our Rogers TV broadcasts. Mark's going to miss the next few games. He, as of tomorrow, Monday, is flying to Australia. A little vacation for Mark and his girlfriend. So all the best. Safe travels to Mark. We will see him back. I believe he's due back just before the Christmas break in the OHL. So looking forward to having Mark back on again soon. Have a Foster's, a cold Foster's, or whatever the popular beer is there in Australia while you're there, Mark. I know he's probably listening on his flight because he'll have about 19 hours to kill as he travels to Australia. But looking forward to having him back. Looking forward to working with Spencer Byers in the booth for the two games against Erie. That is the next 2 games for the Owen Sound Attack. Friday, yes, a rare Friday night game at the Bayshore, and then Saturday at the Bayshore as the Erie Otters do their annual trip up for 2 on a Friday and a Saturday. Both those games are at 7 p.m., by the way, and you can get your tickets for them at attackhockey.com. Thanks again for listening to this episode and for watching, whether it's on YouTube or on Rogers TV Grey County. Make sure you like and subscribe wherever you listen to it. Always welcome your feedback for the show as well. Actually popped into Jonathan Banks' mother after the game on Sunday afternoon. She wanted to say that she's a fan of the podcast, which I really do appreciate. I know a lot of the families listen in to the podcast and watch us on TV, which we all really appreciate. And are always happy to hear from you and also meet you as well. A lot of the American players had family because, of course, Thursday was American Thanksgiving. So even though they are literally not home, even in their home country, they were still able to come up and celebrate as a family. So great for the Banks family. I know the Sikora family was up as well this weekend. The Greenberg family was up. I saw Lenny chatting with his family members after the game on Sunday. So always happy to have you here at the Bayshore. And thanks so much for letting a member of your family be part of our Attack family. We appreciate it. Have a great week, and we will talk to you again at the Bayshore on Friday night. Cheers.
The Bear Tracker podcast is produced in association with Blackburn Media from the CKNX studios in Wingham, Ontario. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe at Bear Tracker Pod on social media and wherever you get your podcasts.